Okay, so this study has been getting a lot of press lately because it was just recently published, February 27, 2023, and it's talking about the artificial sweetener erythri erythritol. So anyway, it's a very popular non-sugar sweetener, and this was published in Nature Medicine, which is a very well-recognized journal. And basically, what they did is they looked at 1,157 people, and they divided them up based on how much of this artificial sweetener that they consumed, and they divided up into four groups: the lowest fourth, the second lowest fourth, the second highest fourth, and then the highest fourth. So they were divided up into what they call quartiles, and they found out that in people that between if you compared the lowest group to the highest group, they had almost double the rate of major cardiovascular events, which includes death, heart attack, or stroke. And so this got a lot of press because they're like, "Oh no, this thing is really bad. It increases your risk of heart attack, stroke, and death," which is bad. But this is something that we've known for a long time, and it's not anything new. Uh, People think that artificial sweeteners are good for you and they're getting rid of sugar, so that's good. And that is good. It is good to get rid of sugar. But if you get rid of sugar by replacing it with a non-sugar artificial sweetener, that's actually worse than sugar, uh, probably. Let's look at this. This is a study looking at the benefits of artificial sweeteners in diabetes. Now, one of the things that drives me crazy is that when I order a diabetic diet in the hospital, what inevitably people get in their diet is they get a bunch of foods with artificial sweeteners in them because it's presumed that because there is no sugar in there, that it's going to not affect their blood glucose. And that may be true in the short term, but in the long term, it is going to completely mess up their glycemic control. So this is a study looking at that, and they looked at sucralose, ACE, aspartame, saccharin. And of course, a lot of people are going to say, well, what about stevia? Stevia is like definitely okay because it comes from a plant and it's natural. Well, just because it comes from a plant and it's natural doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. And there's many other studies in here that look at stevia, and stevia is pretty much does similar things. Anyways, when they look at this, they realize that eating these things changes your gut microbiome, and a large cohort study showed that high artificial sweetener intake was associated with all-cause mortality, so increases your rate of death from any cause, cardiovascular risk, so stroke, heart attack, coronary artery disease, that's heart attack, cerebrovascular risk, that's stroke, and cancer risk. And then it does not improve glycemic control. If you look at this, effect of artificial sweeteners on insulin resistance among type 2 diabetics, this cross-sectional study shows that these artificial sweeteners um, paradoxically increase insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is what diabetes type 2 is. It is a resistance to insulin. And so this makes that worse. This is a study looking at the microbiome in these sweeteners, and they looked at sucralose and saccharin and other non-nutritive sweeteners in humans. So if you look at this, they looked at saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, NutraSweet, and stevia. And what they found here is that they significantly impaired glycemic response. And then if you look at this, this is a large study where they looked at a bunch of papers. They looked at about 7 trials that included 1,000 participants and then 30 cohort studies. Cohort studies is where they don't do anything to the people. They just watch them and follow them. That included about 400,000 people with a follow-up of over 10 years. And what they found out is that um, consumptions of non-nutrient sweeteners was associated with increasing BMI. So basically, it made people gain weight. These things made people gain weight over not taking these. And then In cohort studies, consumption of non-nutritive sweeteners was associated with increases in weight and waist circumference and higher incidence of obesity, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular events. And this is a study back in 2017. So these artificial sweeteners increase your risk of bad things is not a new thing that was just reported, recently, like the news would have you believe. This has been well known for a long time that these things are not good for you. Here's another one. The truth about artificial sweeteners. Are they good for diabetics? So this is in 2018. And then basically they say that these low-calorie sweeteners are seemingly safe to use, provide sweetness without calories, and provide a choice of sweet foods who otherwise cannot partake of them. However, while artificial sweeteners may indeed restrict calories, they have no beneficial effects on the control of diabetes, rather possibly increase its risk. And then additionally, there are some safety concerns regarding cancer risk, so increases the risk of cancer. These last two studies are based upon this population-based cohort study, I believe out of France. Yeah, so out of France, they looked at 100,000 adults from the French population, and they looked at cancer risk, and here's their conclusion. In this large cohort study, artificial sweeteners, which were used in many foods and beverages, are associated with increased cancer risk. And that this is the same cohort, so this is the same group of people. This is published more recently, and they looked at cardiovascular risk, much like this paper that's in the news right now. And you see that these things, like here we go, right here, conclusions. The study from this large-scale prospective cohort study suggests a potential direct association between higher artificial sweetener consumption and increased cardiovascular risk. Okay, so in this study, they found that this product probably affects the platelets and causes increased clotting. And that's one mechanism. We don't really know the mechanism of why these things are bad for you, but essentially these are not things that your body was designed to eat. Like stevia is a very weird, rare plant that happened to notice that it was sweet. And people commercialized it and turned it into an artificial sweetener. NutraSweet, saccharin, those kinds of things are, and then this product is a chemically derived sweetener. And so your body is not equipped to handle these, and we don't know what the effects of these things are on the body, essentially. And one possibility is in terms of glycemic risk, your brain is programmed to associate sweetness with sugar, because normally when you taste something sweet, you're getting sugar. Then there's a very complicated cascade that your body has to do to get ready to take in the sugar. So it tastes something sweet and your body tells you, okay, sugar's coming down the pipeline. We better get the glucose transporters ready, the insulin ready. We better get all these things ready to handle the sugar. And then if you use artificial sweeteners, those things don't happen. And so then your body may habituate and say, okay, whenever I taste sweetness, it's not sugar and I don't need to get all this stuff ready. So when you actually get sugar, and sugar is unavoidable because it's in food, then you won't process that well, and then therefore your glycemic control gets worse. And then obviously these things looked at microbiome driven effects. So these things affect the microbiome, and the microbiome is known to affect a lot of things. We don't know why the cancer risk is there, but that's definitely there. And so it does increase. And paradoxically, these things are no calorie. You're getting rid of sugar. You should help you lose weight, but this thing actually makes you gain weight. So there's essentially no good side to these artificial sweeteners. I would say if you're gonna need something sweet, you should just use sugar. Sugar is what your body is designed to use. It uses it as a fuel, and the best thing to do is reduce sugar use. I mean, the number one thing you can do is reduce any kind of a lot of sugar consumption is in the form of drinks. And that's where all these non-nutritive sweeteners come in. So just try to wean yourself off of drinks and drink tea and water instead. Not sweet tea, obviously. And then like for desserts, try to get used to eating fruits instead of other desserts as your dessert. because sugar we know is a problem. The amount of sugar consumption has gone way up in modern history, but thinking that this is better than sugar is probably wrong. This is probably worse than sugar, any of these non-nutritive sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. Okay, I'll have links to all these studies in the description below. Thanks for watching.